أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, inshallah in this section we will be learning مخارج الحروف, the pronunciation, which means the articulation points of the letters, where all letters should be pronounced from. Each letter has its specific articulation point to come from. There is a major one and there is a smaller, minor one. We'll start inshallah with all of them one by one. The first letter, Alif. Alif is pronounced from the empty space of the mouth and the throat. So there's nothing specific. It's a med letter. When I say ba, ba, it's just air that comes out from the empty space here. Ba, ta, tha. Make sure that this alif could be light or heavy based on the preceding letter. So if I say the alif with the sad, it's going to be heavy. Sa, you see that? But alif with the ba, it's going to be light. Ba, not ba, that doesn't work. Ba, light. But sa, heavy. Da, heavy. Tha, light. So if you want to see if alif is light or heavy, you should be looking at the preceding letter. Jazakumullah khairan. The second letter, ba. Ba. How do we say ba? Ba is pronounced when you bring both lips together. Ba, ba, ba. Okay? You can also look at the picture and see how both lips get together to pronounce that sound. Ba. The third letter, ta. How do we say ta? Ta is actually pronounced from the top part of the tip of the tongue. The top part of the tip of the tongue when it hits the roots of the upper front incisors. Ta, ta, ta. Make sure. Ta is one of the hams letters, okay? So when you say it with harakah, do not do it with a whistling sound like ta, tu, ti. That's wrong. Ta, tu, ti. But when ta has a sukoon, when I say kuwirat, you add s sound at the end, which is called hams, whispering or whistling. Kuwirat, fujirat, a'addat, a'tadat. Jazakumullah khairan. Tha. Tha is actually pronounced from the tip of the tongue and the edge of the upper incisors. So tip of the tongue and the edge of the upper incisors. Tha, tha, tha. To produce this sound, you should be sticking your tongue out of your mouth and the tip of your tongue should be showing to the people. So, tha. One of the most common mistakes we have here that many people, they keep the tongue inside the mouth to produce that sound, but they produce sa instead. No, it's actually tha, tha. Look at the tip of the tongue and the edge of the upper incisors. Tha, tha. Tongue out. That's how you say it. Jazakumullahu khairan. Jim is pronounced from the middle of the tongue, the middle section of the tongue, and the roof of the mouth from inside. Jim. Jim. It's very easy. Jim. Make sure you avoid saying jim. Jim. Many people say jim or gim. No, it's jim. Jim. Okay, the middle of the tongue and the roof of the top of the mouth from inside. Jazakumullah khairan. Ha is the first throat letter or guttural letter we have here. You know, we have 6 guttural letters: Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha, Ghain, Kha. And with this order, we can divide the throat into 3 sections, 3 major sections: the top, the middle, and the bottom of the throat. Okay? So we have, in the bottom, we have 2 letters: Hamza, Ha. The middle, Ain and Ha are letter here, in the middle of the throat. Ghain and Kha at the top. Let's go back to the middle of the tongue for our letter Ha. How do we say it? We should be feeling some vibration in the middle part of the throat. If you put your finger here and you try to say ha, 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 you feel something moving, some vibration in the middle of the tongue. And it's completely different than ha, 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 the air that just comes out from the bottom of the throat, okay? As we said, hamza ha here. But ayn, ha, ha. It's not a heavy letter. It's a light letter, but it's a sharp pronounced letter. So, ha, ha. Make sure the middle of the tongue, the middle of the throat, is moving. The middle of the throat is moving. Ha. Jazakumullah khairan. Kha. How do you say kha? The heavy letter. So kha is the first heavy letter we have here in the alphabets. Now kha, as we mentioned in ha, it's part of the throat letters. As we said, we have 6. Hamza, ha, ayn, ha, ghayn, and kha towards the top. So kha is actually the closest throat letter to the mouth. The closest throat letter to the mouth. Kha, kha. If you feel it, it's pronounced from the top part of the throat. Kha, kha. You can feel the vibration in this part. Kha. Jazakumullah khairan. Dal. Where do we say dal from? It's a light letter, first of all. It's not dal. No, it's dal. Dal. Da, du, di. It's actually the tip of the tongue. Let's say we take the top part of the tongue and we go towards the upper incisors. It's a little different than ta, but they're very close. They're very close. So when I say da, ta, ta, da, da, ta, you should be differentiating between the dal and the ta. They have a very close articulation point. It's not exactly the same, but it's very close. The top of the tongue hits the upper incisors, the roots of the upper incisors. And one of the common mistakes that people make when they say Maliki yawmiddin, Maliki yawmiddin, many people, they turn it to be teen, and that's a big mistake, because in the meaning, when I say Maliki yawmiddin, so we say, oh Allah, you're the king or the owner or the controller of the day of judgment. But that's deen. But teen means fig. It's a big difference. So we have to be aware of the da and the ta. Jazakumullah khair. Dhal, the, dhu, the. It's the tip of the tongue when it hits the lower edge of the upper incisors. So the edge of the upper incisors, they hit the tip of the tongue. The tongue should be placed outside the mouth, or the tip of the tongue should be placed outside the mouth. When I say dhal, dhal, you see the tip of my tongue is actually sticking out. One of the common mistakes that some of my students make, they say zal, they keep the tongue inside. It's actually the same problem as tha and sa. It's actually tha and dhal. They don't say dhal, they say zal. No, that's a big problem. We have to stick the tongue out and let the tip of the tongue show outside the mouth and hit the edge of the upper incisors. Dhal. Ra, ra. It's a heavy letter. How do we say ra? Sometimes can be heavy and light. Ra is heavy. Ri is light. And so the ra, it's actually pronounced based on its location, or where is it located in the word. There's a kasra before, fatha before, sukoon on it. There's so many rules about ra. Ra is actually pronounced from the top part of the tip of the tongue. The top part of the tip of the tongue, when it hits the gums behind the upper incisors, the upper front incisors, there's gums here. See the gum? Okay, the top of the tip of the tongue hits that part. Ra, ra. It's actually a letter inside the articulation point of the noon letter. It's almost the same. Noon, ra is actually just inside the noon articulation point. Za. Za is pronounced just between the two incisors. When you put the tip of the tongue between the two incisors and closer, slightly closer to the lower incisors, z, z, produces this sound, za. So many people are mixing between dhal and za. Za and dhal. So they say a'uzu, and when za comes, they say dha. Liyamidallahu, liyamizallahu, okay? No. Dal with a dot is dal. So when you see a dal, it looks like a dal, but with a dot at the top. And when you see za, it's actually ra with the dot at the top. That's how you differentiate between the dal and za. Jazakumullah khair. Sin, it's very close to the za articulation point, but with a little push on the top of the tongue, the tip of the tongue. So you actually place the tongue between the two incisors, the upper incisors and the lower incisors, but with a little push at the top of the tongue. So when I say z, s, z, s, a little different. S. Make sure that when you have sukun on the sin, you say it as s. When I say walillahi yasjudu, make sure it's pronounced sin in this word, like sajda. Yasjudu, he makes sujud, okay? But many people, a very common mistake in this, they say yasjudu. They don't pay attention to the sin. They say it as a za, but it's actually yasjudu. Yasjudu. Jazakumullah khair. Sheen is one of the huruf al-shajariyah, which actually pronounced from the middle of the tongue and the top roof of the mouth. So the roof of the mouth and the middle of the tongue. Sheen, there's something called, attribute called tafashi in the sheen. Tafashi, which means spreading the sound of the letter in the mouth. Sheen. When I say li'ilafi quraish, it's filling the mouth with the sheen. So that's tafashi. So the sheen is pronounced from the middle of the tongue, the middle section of the tongue, and the roof of the mouth. Sheen. Sad. The sad letter is a heavy letter, and it's pronounced actually from the tip of the tongue when it relies or like lies on the what? On the bottom incisors. And that's how the safir attribute comes out. Sad, sad, sad. So the tip of the tongue, ra'sul lisan, it's actually lying on what? Or like on the bottom incisors. Sad, sad. There's an attribute called as-safir. It's in the sin, za, and also the sad. Dad. The Arabic language called Lughatul Dad. Why? Because it's a unique letter. No other language has this letter in it. So Dad is a unique letter. One side of the two sides of the tongue should be hitting the upper molars. So Dad, the left side or the right side. And it was narrated that Umar ibn Khattab, Sayyidina Umar, he was able to say both the left and the right. And one of the says, they say if it's comfortable for you, you can hit both of the sides of the tongue, hit them with they can hit the upper molars. Dad, dad. Okay? Jazakumullah khairan. Ta, ta. Actually, it's the top part of the tip of the tongue when it hits the roots of the upper incisors. It's a heavy letter. Ta, the top part of the tip of the tongue when it hits the roots of the upper incisors. Ta, ta, ta. Jazakumullah khairan. Va. It's actually the tip of the tongue and the edge of the upper incisors. Va, it's a heavy letter. You don't stick the tongue out as much as you do with the dhal and tha. It's a little less, but it should be visible. The tip of the tongue should be visible when you say va. It's a heavy letter. Ayn. Ayn is pronounced from the middle of the throat. Hamza, ha, ayn, ha. So ayn and ha from the middle. Ghayn and kha at the top. So ayn is pronounced from the middle part of the throat. You can be feeling the vibration if you put your finger here. The middle of the throat should be moving around. Ghayn. Ghayn is pronounced from the highest part of the throat, the top part of the throat. As we mentioned earlier, we have three major parts of the throat. The lower part, the bottom part, the middle part, and the top part. So ghayn is pronounced from the top part, the highest part of the throat, the closest to the mouth. Ghayn, agh, ghayn, ghayril maghdubi alayhim. That's the ghayn. Fa. Fa is actually pronounced from, combining the edge of the upper incisors when they hit down on the inside part of the lower lip. The inside part of the lower lip. Fa, fa, fa. The difference between fa and tha is the tongue. Actually, in the fa, tongue has no involvement at all. But in tha, you have to stick your tongue out. It should be visible to others when you say tha. But this is fa, fa. Upper incisors with the lower lip. Fa. Qaf. Qaf is pronounced from the deepest part of the tongue. So the closest to the throat, the farthest from the mouth. Qaf, qaf, qul, qaf. Kaf is pronounced from the back of the tongue, but it's actually closer to the mouth from the qaf articulation point. So the articulation point of the kaf is actually the back of the tongue, but it's closer than the qaf. So ka, qa. It's the back or the end, towards the end of the tongue, but it's not the farthest part like qaf, it's closer to the mouth. Lam is actually pronounced from the tip of the tongue when it hits the gum or the gums of the upper incisors. La. Lam, lam, la, la. Make sure there's no ghunna in your lam. There's some common mistake where people do produce ghunna with the lam. Mim is pronounced from the lips. When you bring both lips together, when you combine both lips together, when they close up, this is mim. And there's some nasal sound also coming from the nose. Mim, mim. Noon, noon is actually pronounced from the tip of the tongue when they hit. You see the upper incisors behind them a little bit. Noon, noon. It's below the lam articulation point. Noon, lam, lam, noon, noon. There's nasal sound. There's a ghunna sound in the noon. So the tip of the tongue with the upper incisors. You see by the upper incisors, the roots and the gum. Noon. Wow is pronounced when you put both lips together and you stick them outside. Wow. Wow. Bring the two lips together and stick them outside. Wow. Wow. Okay? Wow. It's a light letter. Ha is pronounced from the deepest part of the throat. As we said, Hamza, ha, ayn, ha, ghayn, kha. So ha is here. Ha, it's a light one. And also ha is a light one. But this ha, it's not sharp at all. Ha, ha, ha. Hamza is pronounced from also the deepest part of the throat. Hamza and ha. So you can say a, u, e. You put your you put your finger in here, the lowest part of the throat, and you can feel the vibration. A, I, u, I, u, a. That's the Hamza. Ya is pronounced from the middle part of the tongue and the roof of the mouth. And the roof of the mouth. Ya, ya. This is actually the vowel ya. It's different than the mad ya, which is a sakin ya that is preceding by a letter, has a kasr like B. That ya is a mad letter from the empty space. But this one, the voweled one, ya, you, yi, the middle of the tongue and the roof of the mouth. Jazakumullah khair. I hope you benefited from this section, which is the makharij. We all have to be able to pronounce all these letters from the correct articulation point. May Allah reward you all for watching.